Hello, welcome back to my books. Welcome back to my channel, Gem of Books. My name is Gemma. Today I thought we would do some 5-star predictions, particularly because it is a prompt in my TBR game, which if you haven't seen, I'll link it down below. Luckily it didn't come up this month. But yeah, so this will be the video that I sort of refer back to, and it would be great if I could try and finish these in a timely fashion so that I can sort of do the go back to my 5-star predictions and see if they were right video at some point in the dim and distant future. So what I've got today is I've got 5 books that I physically own to talk about, then I've got 5 books that I own on my Kindle to talk about, and then I've also got 5 that I don't own but which I would likely pick up on Audible, on audio via Audible. So then I've got a full selection to choose from going forward, and hopefully some of them will sound of interest to you as well. So let's kick it off with the first book. So I'm going to start, oh apologies, there's a bit of a shine on that from the skylight over there, sorry. I'm going to start with The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. So I think quite a lot of people probably know what this is about. This has been made into a movie, though I haven't seen it. If I'm honest, I don't have a super good grasp of the plot. All I know is that it's set in Afghanistan. It follows a young boy and everybody cries when they read it. So I love reading about different cultures. So this is one of the reasons why this is on the list. And I also love sad stories. I don't really know why, but anything that makes me feel human emotions, I suppose, is always a winner in my book. So yeah, the first on the list, The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. The next book I would like to talk to you about is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the first in the Mistborn trilogy, very famous high fantasy series. This is the first in this trilogy, but there is another trilogy, and then there's there's a longer series that starts with the Way of Kings, which I think is 4 out of 10 into being published. So there's quite a few to go at. I think there's a few standalones in this as well. So you can get properly entrenched in this world, which is what I love. I don't know anything about it really. I think the magic system has something to do with metal, and that's all I know, to be honest. And that's all I need to know, because pretty much everybody that I've seen recommend this book or talk about this book has said it's fantastic. And I have never read any Brandon Sanderson, and I say that I like fantasy, but how can I if I've never even picked up a Brandon Sanderson book? It's like sacrilege. So yeah, this one is definitely a 5-star prediction for me. So next on the list is Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. This one is set in Nigeria, I believe. Yeah, 1980s Nigeria. And it follows a woman who's struggling to have a child, and her husband decides or is encouraged to take a second wife. And it's how I expect it's how their relationship changes, and her relationship with the new wife. I don't actually know if there does become a new wife or not, because I haven't read it. But I saw this recommended by Grace at GK Reads. I'll link her channel below. And I like many of the books that Grace reads. I also read The Girl with the Louding Voice this year, which is another piece of Nigerian fiction which I really enjoyed, and that dealt with sort of the multiple wives situation, and I loved it, gave it 5 stars, one of my favourite books of the year. So I'm expecting this to be equally as good, perhaps better, who knows. So very much looking forward to getting to that one. Next, we're going to move into a bit of historical fiction with Hamnet by Maggie A. Farrell. So Hamnet won the Women's Prize for Fiction last year, so in 2020. And I believe it follows Shakespeare and his family following the death of their son. Or Shakespeare and his wife following the death of their son. It's supposed to be very emotive. As a mother, I find it very interesting to read about mother-child relationships, and I expect if there is the death of a child in this book, again, it's going to be a tearjerker for me. But yeah, and also how beautiful is the cover, man? I mean, look how pretty it is. So I don't really need to know any more than that going in. It won the Women's Prize for Fiction, and it's historical fiction that makes you cry. Tick, tick and tick. And last up, a book that I did talk about in my mid-year freak-out tag, which I will link below, but with the caveat, that was my very first video. Apologies for the awful filming. Hopefully it is starting to improve. But that is The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. I love Kristin Hannah. She's one of my favourite authors. I know some people don't like her, but I think she's phenomenal. I've read The Nightingale, The Great Alone, and what's the other one called? It will come to me. It will come to me later. But yeah, so this one I think is set in America in the Great Depression, 1934, and I think it follows a mother and her children trying to move away from where they are because they're unable to support themselves and move, I assume, towards California. It doesn't really say, but towards somewhere where they will be able to make some money and live a better life. So knowing that it's Kristin Hannah, again, fully expecting waterworks with this one. There's a theme here, isn't there? All of these, I think, bar the Brandon Sanderson, is probably likely to make me cry. So yes, very looking forward to this one, and another stunning cover. I just love this green colour that they have. They have it in the end pages also, this beautiful green colour. Oh look, my nails sort of match. So yeah, very much looking forward to getting to this one. So I'm going to move on now to books that are on my Kindle. So I will just put the pictures in this beautiful gap that I've engineered with my excellent filmmaking skills. So I will start with China by Ed Rutherford. I actually know very little about this book. I was kindly approved for an e-arc from NetGalley, but it was released last month, maybe even the month before, and I haven't got to it yet. It's a big book, but I believe it's multi-generational, looking at life in China and the realities of that. He has also done one about Paris, I believe, and possibly New York. So a new to me author, but I love Chinese culture, and I find it really, really interesting to read about. So given that he's a very famous author and it's a nice big chunky book, which I also like, I think that one could be a winner. Next up is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. Everybody on BookTube has been talking about this, so I expect many of you already know what it's about, but in a nutshell, Ireland, the Spanish flu, and you're in a maternity hospital following the nurses as they try and deal with an epidemic, which is extremely harmful to pregnant mothers and their babies. So sort of going back to what I've said before, I quite like that whole the motherhood's angle, because I can relate to it, I suppose. And yeah, it just sounds really, really good. I've only read one other book by Emma Donoghue, which was The Wonder, which I thought was okay, but this one has just had so many rave reviews. I'm sure it's going to be a smash out of the park. 5-star. Next up is Still Alice by Lisa Genova. This has also been made into a film, again, that I haven't watched because I refuse to watch films before I've read the book. It's a really irritating habit because I basically can't watch any films because I never get around to the books. But I believe this one follows a woman who is experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's. I think she's relatively young, middle-aged, and it's about how she copes with that. That's all I know, really, but another sad book, I believe. But I've heard so many good things, and I believe it was originally independently published. Please correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect, because there is a chance. But very much looking forward to getting to that one. Next up is Ordinary Grace by William Kent Krueger. So I'll be honest, I know very little about this book, but I have seen it a lot in some forums on Facebook, not so much on BookTube, funnily enough, but I believe it's sort of, it's told from a man's perspective, and he's looking back in time, and he's looking at a particular summer where everything goes horribly wrong, and I think there's death of a family member, and it covers grief and sibling relationships, and really that's all I needed to know. But literally everybody that I've seen post about it has said it was 5 stars and amazing. And he does have another book as well, This Tender Land, that I've seen a lot of positive praise on as well. So they sound really really like my sort of thing. I was going to say up my alley, but I think I may have said that 4 times already. So yeah, so that is another one that I'm predicting will be 5 stars on my Kindle. And last up, had to include a fantasy. Shock horror is a fantasy that I think everybody else but me has read. It's The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemison. This is another fantasy author that I haven't read any of the works of, but everybody says this trilogy is fantastic. I believe it's called the Broken Earth trilogy, and it's something to do with having horrific climatic seasons that effectively wipe out the majority of the population, I believe. So yeah, absolutely very excited to get to that one as soon as possible. So moving on to books that I don't currently own but will purchase probably as audiobooks. First up, we've got Americannah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adiche. So this book, I believe, it may be split timeline, but it certainly takes place, I think, partly in Nigeria and then partly in either the States or the UK, I'm not sure. And I think it's sort of a love story that transcends continents. And I don't really want to know any more than that going into it. I know loads of people have read it, so how I've managed to not really hear anything is beyond me, but I'd like to keep it that way and pick that up very, very soon, because I am really, really enjoying my African fiction at the moment. African and Asian fiction, I'm all for it. Really anything that's from a place that I've never been to. So yeah, so looking forward to that one. Next up, sticking with the African theme, is The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kamkwamba. Apologies if I've pronounced that wrong. I believe this was made into, was it an Amazon Prime movie or series? And I think it's based on a true story. A young boy in an African village. I'm not actually so sure where in Africa it's set, but hopefully I'll get to it soon and then I'll be able to tell you all about it. And I think it's about how he manufactures a wind farm for his village, or a turbine or something along those lines. But I think it's one of those feel good beating the odds sort of story, which I'm all about, because though I do like books that make me cry, I do occasionally like ones where there is a happy ending. So hopefully that will be the one for me. Next up is We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. This is a memoir, and I've been on a real memoir kick this year. I hadn't really read memoirs before last year, and so this year I'm loving them. I think they're fantastic, particularly when they feature minority groups. So this features a young queer Muslim woman, I believe, and you start with her life in Pakistan and the challenges that she has there growing up surrounded by Islamic State and everything that goes with that. And then she moves to Canada, and though it's supposed to be, you know, freedom and democracy and all of those sorts of things, she finds that she's just encountering a different set of challenges. Racism, homophobia, still, even though it's not an Islamic State country. And it just sounds really, really interesting. I read Persepolis earlier this year, and I found that whole coming from, obviously that was based in Iran, so it's slightly different, but from those sorts of Middle Eastern countries where really I don't know anything about the reality of living in those countries over the last 20, 40 years. I just find it fascinating. I think they are stories that need to be told and that people need to listen to and to read to educate themselves better. So very much looking forward to that one, and I have seen that recommended about the place on BookTube. So yeah, that one I think will definitely be 5 stars for me. Next is a bit of a different one, another non-fiction, The Soul of an Octopus by Montgomery. So I saw the Netflix show, which the name of it escapes me, but I think it was Montgomery who was the guy in it. I might just be making that up. Who knows? But I watched it about this man who effectively became friends with an octopus. And it sounds ridiculous, but I cried. I loved that octopus. And until you watch it, I don't think you really understand, like, how loving an octopus can be and how intelligent they are and beautiful. And so, yeah, so following that, I was very keen to pick up this book, The Soul of an Octopus. And if it is a patch on the Netflix show that I watched, then it will absolutely be 5 stars. And last up, we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. I have seen this recommended on April's channel at Getting Hooger With It. I'll link that below. And again, I don't know huge amounts. I don't really like to know loads about a book before going in, otherwise what's the point in reading it? But I believe it's it follows sort of like a medical establishment that have this pod or chamber where you can go and it heals you of various different things. Something happens, there's an accident, and a mystery unfolds. That's it. That's all I know about it. But I saw it recommended by April, and again, she recommends many books that I think are very good. So that one has also made it to my 5-star predictions video. And that was 5 for each format. So I think we're hot to round it up. So yeah, I hope that some of those sounded interesting to you. Obviously they sound interesting to me, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about them. But yeah, thank you very much for coming along. Thank you to all those lovely people who have subscribed to me. If you haven't, I would love it if you would maybe think about it, and if you don't want to like commit to a subscription, then maybe just give me a little thumbs up, would be great. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Okay, bye for now.